Finally got around to finishing up net number 2, and here it is. Really enjoyed this process as well. I used some different materials and tried out some different weaving techniques. In the video I show you more or less what I did, and at the end I give a conclusion about what I liked and disliked. Hope you enjoy. Trying something new this time, something I wanted to try. I bought the perimeter, and this is actually 6mm stainless steel cable. I got 10 meters. We're gonna do another 9x9 with this. And I've been looking up, I've never worked really with cable before, but I have to splice the ends together. And that should maintain 100% the strength of the cable, which, because that's going to be slick, I bought polypropylene. This is 6mm. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the core out of this and slide it over the top of the cable to have a cable sheathed with this polypropylene. Since it's not going to be out in the weather all of the time, getting rained on, too much sun, these kinds of type of things. So I'm gonna experiment with polypropylene, and we're gonna see how good this does over the long run. We'll see. And then I bought, this is 3mm polyester cord, and 50 meters each. Because it's a little bit thinner than the last one, which I made filled with a 4, I went ahead and bought 3. So we're just gonna do all white because that was all they had. The polypropylene, we're gonna test sheathing the metal cable. First, to sheath. Okay, so actually the first thing I'm gonna do here is, wow, look at that mess. I'm going to go ahead and measure out this cable. I don't know a whole lot about splicing or anything like this, so this is all new territory for me. But they say that the long splice will maintain 100% of the strength of this rope, so I'm going to do what is known as a long splice. I'm going to go ahead and measure the cable and mark it at 9. This is how the net will look. We're going to have 300 centimeter, 300 and 300, so a total of 9 meters. And since we have 10 meters, we're going to overlap by 50 and 50 on either side, and this will get spliced all together and be one continuous loop when we're done. So here are my 2 marks at 50 with the 2 tails that are going to be put together. And here's the idea, is that it's just going to be one giant continuous loop. So my idea here with this rope is I cut the end, and then I'm hoping that on one side I can push the polypropylene core out. And either I'm going to push the cable through, or I'm gonna tie it and pull it through, because that might be a better option. I'm not sure yet how I'm gonna do that. Okay, so that kind of worked pretty well. I just pushed up a little piece of the core, shoved it on the wire and heated it, and now I have heat set the tube so the tube is not unraveling. All right, we're gonna try this out. I took the core and kind of split it, put it onto the cable, and then wrap tape around it to try and hold the core in place. And on the other end here, I have the core sticking out, so in theory when I pull this, that should slide on. Let's see how this is gonna work. If I pull this, let's just start off with a little bit. I got make a big bundle. Oh damn, the hard part is just gonna be getting over the tape because it's pinching right there. That's it. Let me just do like this. They work. Oh, there we go, look at there, it's starting. Only like 1,000,000 more meters to go. Oof, I don't know about this. Okay, it has begun, and it fits nice when it's in there, so that should be really cool when it's done. Progress report, look at that. It's been maybe like 5 minutes. It's going okay. I don't know of any other way to do this. I really love how it feels, and that is going to be super nice. We have come to the end. It only took like maybe 10-15 minutes, and I think that looks super cool. Now we have this rope wrapped around the metal, and that looks awesome. Now we have to splice. Oh, I'm scared. So here's the the guts ripped out of the inside of the rope, and look at this, you just go, it breaks so easy. And if you break off a piece, check this out, if you unroll it, it's just this super thin, like a dryer sheet, just rolled up. So that thing is going, I don't know if you can recycle this or not, but I don't need this. Okay, so the whole thing is done. So now I have to do splice. All right, now I gotta do the other one, and then they all kind of like go together. I'll get the other side done. Because look at that, like what a chaos. Here it is. So that should be pretty good. So now I just have to tuck these into the wire. I finished the splice, and here it is. So I taped over this end a little bit, and now I gotta pull out all the slack and then bring that over the top. This is super clean. Here is the end. And then over here you can see this is where the other end was taped. So now the loop is done. This is the end of the sheath, and here's my idea. I am going to mark here, then I'm gonna go 3 meters again, mark, and 3 meters again, mark, and then that meter should be right at 3 meters. My idea now is that I'm going to put a loop into here, like this, and then I'm going to use some of the rope to do a wrap around here so I can hold those two cables together. I don't know if that's going to work, but that is the idea that I'm going to do. All 3 loops are in, and so we have exactly 3 loops at 3 meters each. So now it's time to finally take this down to the beach and see if it slips. So immediately we have a problem here. I started to apply just a little bit of tension, and this has slid. This is where it should be, and this has slid down the line. This is the other side. You can see this one has come in as much as the other one has cinched, has opened. So definitely that is not going to work. I went ahead and added in these grips in the corners. This is basically the setup, and the grips I was really wanting to not have on here because I was trying to hide the fact that I'm using metal, and now metal is introduced into the system, so maybe I can hide it all and then it'll be okay. But there's the loop now. Okay, this has not slipped at all. Here's the beginning, the sheath, that's staying perfectly still, and this thing is crazy tight. I haven't sat on it yet, but just with the tensioning, everything's looking really good, and it is unbelievable. And this is interesting. I just had this guitar string tight, and when I sat in it, I'm getting that much sag. So I'm actually having a harder time to keep tension on the cable than I am on rope. So that is surprising. But there it is. And hooray, the splice is holding. I've decided I marked the middles between the anchor points. The idea is I'm going to do a strip that's going to run across here to this border. I'm going to do that to here, and then I'm going to do that to here, and fill those with a pattern. Then the interior and the outsides are going to be filled with the chaos. So we got going on so far. Here's I'm going to do the zigzag pattern up and down. So here's the beginning of the diamond pattern going in. I'm going to leave it like this at the moment, and I tried to do it not too tight because this is going to be pulled from this direction and also from this direction. So I'm going to just kind of leave it like it is. And then here's the 3 beginning of the hexagon pattern. I think I'm going to go ahead and start to fill in this now. I did the double pattern across the center section here. I filled it with 3 arm loads in the chaos pattern, and now I'm going to go in and start making it more dense. So this time I'm just going to pick sections and work in sections, and then so everything should be more or less even. And now I'm just going to work on fill. This is going 2 arm lengths 3 times, and that density is awesome. What I really like is focusing on in one area instead of trying to run this way and then that way and this way and that one, this one, that one, and keep doing that. Build sort of a skeleton and then fill in off of that. I really like that a lot more than my last net, and it's much more dense, and I'm getting clumping, but there's no way around that. But I'm also avoiding the clumping and getting really tiny meshes. So I'm very happy with how that's going so far. Just at sunset right now, and I just finished the second cell. I really like the density. I think it's kind of perfect. I don't have any major holes. And this first one is done, and I will have to continue on with this one tomorrow, and then have the huge center to fill. So now I got it down, and here is why I'm never going to build a space net out of metal again. Maybe a permanent installation, but not something that has to come up and go down, because I can't fold that up and put it in my backpack. So now I got this big giant thing that I haul around everywhere. Out again today, and I just finished up the third triangle. This is set up for the second time. I had some funkiness going on here in this pattern, which I don't even really see a pattern anymore, but now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna fill in the center. This isn't happening every day. Live beach music. It's awesome. Guys are still jamming their music up here, but we've moved on to the next step. So what I'm decided to do is, this is 4 loops, and I put a ring in the middle, but I'm gonna fill up those 3 with some sort of pattern. This is what I've decided on for a pattern in the rays. I did a girth hitch, ran 2 of these here, girth hitched again, and then zigzagged from one side to the other, the other, and that's how it ends up. All right, the 2 fills are in, and we only have the flower petal here left to go till it's all filled. Finished it up right at sunset, and this is how it's kind of looking in there. It's pretty cool. I think that like doing a pattern without the color, you don't really see it so well. So maybe I need to stick with patterning only with colors. I'm not sure. Okay, got the net finished. Backrest has been put on. The underside. Thought it was kind of cool to leave those hanging. Okay, so that's it for this build. Enjoyed the process in this one as well. A few things that I would not do again, and a few things that I really liked. I like the smaller diameter actually more than the 4. It's a little bit more saggy than the other one, which I don't know if that's the material. It feels much softer on the skin, I can tell you that. It's nicer to sit. This pattern that I did left me with some pretty big holes, which I'm not super happy about, but the center part is really cool. It's quite flexible. Now the big question is, do I like this metal cable on the borders or not? And I have to say that I like the diameter. It's not significantly smaller than when the 10mm rope is tensioned down. It's of course a little bit smaller. Feels much harder. However, for a net that you put up and take down, I don't like it at all. The reason I don't like it at all is because it's so stiff. With the rope one, you can ball it up, throw it into a backpack, and the whole package is quite small. And with this one, the metal cable doesn't allow you to ball it all up. So you have this big kind of strange shaped thing that you're trying to take around with you everywhere. So it's not very portable. So I don't really like that. Secondly, I feel like it's heavier. Something else that I don't really like too much about this are the line grabs, or whatever they're called down here on the ends. It's very mechanical and metal, and I don't like having that as a part of the system. However, on a permanent installation or semi-permanent, like a tree net, which would be there for a very long time, I think the metal could be really cool on something like that. Something that you did not have to move, something that would stay up. Now, something that I have noticed about this, which surprised me quite a bit, that is tensioning this has been really weird. So with the rope, after I tensioned it a number of times, I guess the elasticity of the rope has kind of been maxed out, and I can tension it quite quickly. With this metal cable, I tension it and then I sit down to stretch it all out, and everything actually sags after that. So I'm having a more difficult time to tension the metal cable than I am to tension the rope, and that's been very surprising. I did not expect that that would be an issue. The next thing is the knots, the ending knots that I tied here to the perimeters. I've been using that technique where I do the clove hitch with the little stopper knot on the end of it, and that is working exceptionally well, okay? I am able to tie everything off really close to the perimeter, and I'm not having any issues with the ends pulling out through the knots. However, if you tie the clove hitch on the top of the line, then you get this little ball on the top, and getting in and out of the net, that sucks because you hit that little ball and it hurts quite a lot. So I dislike that. The way to get around this is to tie the clove hitch on the underside of the perimeter, and then that little ball is more or less on the underside. So typically when I approached the border, I was coming from the top, looping around, and then tying in the clove hitch, and then putting this little bite, or the little overhand on top. The problem is when that gets weighted, you can see that the little overhand knot sits on the top. So now, as an alternative to this, instead of coming from over, maybe coming now from under is the better option. You can still get lots of tension pulled on it, and you just tie your clove hitch across the bottom so you're left like this, and then when you put the overhand knot into it and this thing shifts around a little, the overhand knot then will stay on the bottom instead of sitting here on the top, just like how this one is done right over here. That way you can come on and off the net without ever feeling that, and this can never slip off. So I really like it, except for you just have to tie the clove hitches on the bottom instead of across the top. So if you're not going to be climbing in and out off the perimeter very often or at all, then it wouldn't really matter what side you do it on, and you can cut off your rope right at the edge and have everything nice and neat. The backrest this time, I just made it out of the same material as the net is made out of, and I'm quite happy with that. I went this time with like this hexagon star pattern, which I discovered by making some tests up at my apartment, and I really like that, like the way that it looks. Other than that, I think I have probably around $50 total. And for this, including the backrest and the lines up here, I ended up using, I would guess, 220 meters total for the net and the backrest. But it's super stable, no problem for standing in. That's easy, super strong. I left the little tassels on the bottom because I thought that kind of looked pretty neat. Anyway, this is the entire net, and this is the things that I like and things that I dislike. I do not think that I will ever be using cable. Well, no, I will not ever be using cable again for a perimeter on a removable net. I don't like this. Maybe using some Dyneema border at 6 mil would be really cool. I just think it might slip a lot. It's super expensive, but it would be probably a really nice product to use. I tried the splice first time. It's holding up really well. That's not actually that difficult. I think that the splicing looks super cool. So that's it. That is the end of the net. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. I know I did. we'll see what we're going to do next. Definitely looking forward to setting up one of these semi-permanent between trees, but that is going to have to wait until spring. See you next time.